everybody? Charger Central here. Tuesday morning after a tough loss to the Baltimore Ravens. How's it going, Levon?
Going good. It would have been better. We got the win. How about you?
Yeah, same. We were both at the game yesterday. The crowd was great.
Yeah.
Another great Chargers crowd again.
Yeah. I would say it was about 95% Chargers. Like in my section especially, I was section, I believe, 226. To the left of me was a sea of blue. To the right of me was a sea of blue, and also in the section 100 area. So it looked like at least 90% was Chargers.
Yeah, I had some Ravens fans in my section. From where I sat, it looked like 80-20 for me, but
still good. Like it's still an improvement from last year. And compared to the night before the Rams Eagles, it was a Eagles fiesta. Like 90% seemed like Eagles fans.
Yeah.
So I think it was a good turnout for the Chargers. Obviously, not the result that we wanted, but just I think the Ravens just played a nearly perfect game. No mistakes really offensively for them. I mean, those third downs, most of those third downs were 3rd and 1, it seemed. 4th and 1, like they're going for it on their own end zone. I was like, dude, John's literally saying, here, Jim, you're not going to be able to stop me. And that was my first thought.
My first thought was Brandon Staley, man. It's like we're playing Brandon Staley again.
Crazy. But at least they're converting, unlike Staley.
Yeah.
But, man, there were a lot of plays like that where we could have gotten stops and quickly turned the possession around, turned to our possession offensively, and just couldn't get a stop. And is there concern? Sure. We had injuries. Yeah, Perryman didn't play. Hart didn't play. But the others did. And there's concerns because I know Derrick Henry is the best running back in the league. But come on. You can't stop him on 3 4th downs. I don't understand that. And Roquan Smith didn't play for the Ravens. So that was a big loss for them. We could have exploited that with our run game. And Dobbins did well in the first half. Obviously, second half injured, and hate to see it. We'll get into that too, but just not a great game. Ravens, again, nearly perfect game for them, especially offensively. So to lose by 1 possession is encouraging. Obviously, we don't want to lose, but 1 possession, okay, we got to bounce back now. Sunday, we get the Falcons. We cannot lose that game. The race is tightening for the 5th seed. I think Ravens overtake the Steelers in the division and get the 3rd seed. So we're either going to end up playing the Ravens or the Texans. Obviously, we both would rather see the Texans. But again, it's still a long season to go. We're only week 13. So still uncertainties and tight races.
Yeah, hats off to the Ravens. I mean, they took the game. We talked before about that Ravens rushing attack, how it's so dangerous with Lamar and Derrick Henry, and they did it. They ran all over. Our defense wasn't able to stop them, and some old issues came back again. Penalties, offensive line penalties, interior offensive line play. Unfortunately, drops again. And fans are gonna be all over QJ again for he had some pretty big drops again. And it's tough to see. Because we were so excited for this game, but the Ravens are a great team, and they showed why they're a great team.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't take it from them. They played again a flawless game offensively. So,
and their defense stepped up too. I think that new addition from the Rams, their corner, I think he really, I think he really helps them in the secondary a lot. So they didn't have too many breakdowns like they were having before.
Right. Yeah. I mean, again, it was a winnable game. The drops killed us, and no matter who we play, Texans, Ravens, dude, it doesn't matter. If these receivers can't catch, we're not winning. And more so if Dobbins isn't back, within 3-4 weeks. I don't know how serious the injury is. I've read that it could be an LCL sprain, which is about 3 to 4 week return. If he's not back for the playoffs, though, I don't know how this team's going to do. Like, they didn't look great in the second half without Dobbins. So I don't know how they're going to do. I think we'll see a lot of Kimani Vidal. But it's just weird to me because, like, once that Dobbins injury happened, I just see people, oh, should I pick up Gus Edwards? Should I pick up Kimani Vidal? I'm like, dude, the guy just got injured. Let's just pause and see what the injury is. Forget your fantasy football for a second. It's unbelievable. Like, these people don't even wait to see what the injury is. They just go on to fantasy football. Oh, who should I pick up? It's unbelievable.
Yeah. It's tough. A tough loss like that, and people are going to be all over, or especially QJ, who had a rough year last year, and people want to jump on him again, and he had a bad game. He had a terrible game, and but the thing is, he's going to put in the work, like Herbert was saying in his presser afterwards. He said, QJ, I know he's going to be the first one in and the last one to leave, we've seen what he's done this season, and he's really improved. And I think it is just going to be a one-game thing,
I hope so because he is a very hard worker. I want to see him succeed. It's just, man, drops like that, like this slant play where he dropped it. This happened last week too against the Bengals. Again, same situation where it was an open field if he caught it. And what I noticed was, and it happened right in front of me, Ladd was right behind him. So whether it was Ladd or Johnston, if that was a catch, it was a touchdown. And then the game just shifted. He missed that. Justice Hill gets a touchdown. That was it. And the crowd just became deflated, understandably so. But they were rocking the whole first half, even started the second half, and then just deflated. So you got to keep that crowd engaged, and you're not going to be able to if you can't hold on to the ball. Having said that, yes, he had 5 targets, no catches. Horrible game. Joshua Palmer, no one's talking about that. 8 targets, 3 catches.
Yeah.
I mean, there were plays where there was one play I believe they called back. It was a pass interference on the Ravens, and they called it back for whatever reason. And then there was one, it was flags on both sides, so they offset. But other than that, like, Palmer can do and should do better too. It's not just Johnston. You need Palmer too. And it begs the question now, okay, Brendan Rice has been on the IR for, I think, 4 weeks now. When is he going to come back? When is DJ Chark going to actually see the field? Because right now what you have is not good enough, and it's just not working. Outside of Ladd McConkey and maybe Will Dissly, you don't have any reliable receivers. So you need something here.
Yeah, I wish we would see DJ Chark just get a shot. He had one snap a couple games ago or something.
He did?
He did, yeah.
I see him on the field.
I didn't even see him. But I read he had one snap. So
I don't know. I mean, even the other guy, like Darius Davis, great punt returner. I think he should, continue doing that because he's just electric. But 2 catches, 4 yards, you're not going to get much out of that. Jalen Reagor, 2 catches, 4 targets, 20 yards. Again, not game-changing. Ladd, I think, had 6 catches on 6 targets, 83 yards. He's that reliable receiver, and we need one more. So this year, you got to work with what you have at this point. Next year, with that $70 million cap space, I was thinking the other day, okay, hopefully T. Higgins, right? They're saying it's between Patriots and Chargers for T. Higgins. I'm like, Patriots, if you want to go and be with a mediocre team, like Drake May is a great quarterback, but the rest of that team isn't that great. Or if you want to come here and have an elite quarterback like Herbert, and have a chance to win every year, come on to LA. But Also, maybe vet minimum, if he's willing to take it, get Keenan Allen back. You never know. He might want to come back. So you have another reliable receiver option there. And Ladd, good luck stopping that. So I think you need at least Higgins, and it doesn't have to be Keenan, but some reliable receiver for Herbert, because what you have now is not working.
Yeah. Yeah. Or, and people talked about Mike Williams too.
Yeah.
I think he's still recovering too, really. From that knee.
Yeah. There was that play where Herbert was being blitzed and threw it up to Johnston. It was a man-to-man coverage. Johnston dropped it, but it was a decent coverage. Had he not been pressured like that, Palmer was wide open on a slant. And, even though it should have gone to Palmer, yes, but that should have been a catch too. Like, I was thinking, if that was Higgins, right, same body, same height, he would have caught that likely. So we need something like that, because QJ, he's dropping passes, but also what's happening is, because of last season and all those drop passes and all the scrutiny that he got, every little drop pass or every little mistake is going to get to his head. And it's just going to, keep playing in his head until he feels like the fan base is with him. And he was getting that, right? And a lot of those touchdowns were open passes to him. But still, a touchdown's a touchdown. Doesn't matter. But big games like this, you make these mistakes in a primetime game, you're going to get called out. So I feel for him, but you got to improve.
Yeah, it seems like it's a mental thing with him.
Yeah.
Because, it was like, that 3rd and 6, that slant, he was open, like he saw he was gonna have that touchdown, and it was like, he wasn't concentrating on making the catch. It was like, I'm already going down, and we've seen other players do that before too. But it's and that pass interference call that they took back, like that was a big call. Like that,
I didn't understand the take back. Like it was pass interference.
It happened right in front of me too. I was section 213. I was right there. I don't understand that.
I don't get it.
I heard someone say that they said it was an uncatchable ball. Well, yeah, the Ravens guy is holding him. Like what? But it didn't seem like an uncatchable ball either. Like,
no, it wasn't. I didn't see it as uncatchable. And then I've seen balls placed way in front of receivers, but they're being held from the back, and they still call it.
Yeah.
So I don't get it. How many times have we seen a pass interference call get called back? Not many. So it was really weird to me why that was called back. Nonetheless, it was a winnable game. Even after all those good drives by the Ravens, it was still a winnable game. Unfortunate missed opportunities by both QJ and Palmer. It just is what it is right now. Derrick Henry ran all over us. And we said, that's the key to stop Henry, and you can win this game. And go ahead. They were up, 10-0? And that was it. That it's like we go up 10-0 and then we just fold. It seems like a weekly thing. Obviously, we've been winning those types of games lately, but yesterday, again, it was the same story.
Yeah, it's a game where you really miss Denzel Perryman, because you think of the hardest hitting guy on our team, maybe, great tackler. He's one of the most important on our team at stopping the run, and you don't have him there, and you got Henry breaking tackles multiple times. So it's tough, and that, and our offensive line, so many times putting us behind the 8 ball again with penalties, and letting the Ravens get pressure inside on Herbert, letting them get to him, and I saw, there was at least one time where a Ravens player, got to Herbert and it looked like, if the Chargers did it, it would have been called roughing the passer, and then they just let it go.
I saw that too. Yeah, I know which one you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah,
Yeah.
they just drove Herbert to the ground,
Mhm.
and
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, missed calls, but we're used to it.
yeah,
Also BS calls that shouldn't have been taken back or should have been called.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, a face mask again
yeah,
that wasn't called in the
yeah.
first half, and
We saw a lot of Troy Dye, as the LB2. I thought we'd see Derwin in that slot, but we didn't see it as much as I thought we would. Again, Troy Dye is good in situational possessions, but starting him, he's good. It's just he doesn't make that big of an impact as a Henley, as a Perryman. So, we need Perryman back. And Sunday we're going to play the Falcons. Bijan Robinson, another big time running back. You need Perryman out there, and we'll get to that on Friday when we do the preview. But you need Perryman out there.
last I heard he was week to week. So
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't rush him back. Even without Perryman, I think we can beat the Falcons. They haven't looked great. Kirk Cousins has struggled, but you never know. At home, they can turn up. So you just got to take care of business. I don't care how you win it. You just got to win it on Sunday because you got to make up for this loss. But again, just a winnable game. That's what pains me. Like we could have and should have won that game. And it's like if they were going to blow us out and win by 20-30, we didn't have a chance. But yesterday we did. And we've had a chance all season against all of these teams that we've played, that we've lost to. And it just, I don't know. It just wasn't a great game for the receivers outside of Ladd. We got to improve on that. And however they do it, whether you put Chark in, put Rice, whatever you do, you got to improve that core this season.
yeah, well, it was the defense too. It was all phases because they had explosive plays against us. That Justice Hill long touchdown play. We weren't giving up plays like that before.
Yeah.
Zay Flowers had another big explosive play. And so many times Derrick Henry, especially those fourth downs were demoralizing. Because you get them 4th and 1, the crowd's pumped up. You think you have a chance to get the ball back. You think maybe they'll kick it to us. Maybe because they were in deep in their own territory so many times, and
that first 4th down that they converted, the 4th and 1 when they called the timeout, I turned around, I'm like, dude, like I'm just turning back and forth, like, are they serious right now? They're gonna go for it? They didn't call a timeout. I'm like, okay, thank goodness they're not. Then they come back onto the field. I'm like, there's no way, dude.
Yeah.
And of course they convert.
Yeah.
That was a killer for us.
It was. All three of them were. All three of them were demoralizing, and you could feel it. Yeah. And
I mean, I love that the crowd was filled with Charger fans. But what scares me is if we start losing, like if we lose another home game, are these fans going to stay? Or are they going to just go back to either being another team fan or whatever? Like, are they going to stick around?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got the diehard fans. I'll be there no matter what. We we have certain fans that will, but yeah, they're I think a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon because they've been winning, and
you can tell they are because like jerseys are selling out, hats are selling out. I'm like, dude, when did all these people become Charger fans all of a sudden? I love it, but at the same time, it's like these guys that are new fans come and start criticizing us. I'm like, wait a minute, like you guys just came here yesterday, man. You have no right to criticize this team yet. Like there should be a rule, 5 years minimum before you get to criticize. It's like moving to another state and starting to criticize that state within a month. Like, no, dude, you've barely been here. So it doesn't make sense to me. the criticism from these new fans. Like, just take a seat back. If you're gonna enjoy the ride, enjoy it, but don't be criticizing a team that you just joined. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, it's always funny. Yeah. And the people who get on QJ the hardest, have they ever caught a pass before? Like, you know,
look,
especially from Herbert, like catching
yeah,
rockets from Herbert.
yeah,
And Herbert said too, it's on me too. Like, I need to throw better passes. And,
yeah.
that's Herbert being Herbert. You're not going to hear someone like Aaron Rodgers say that. But there
Right.
is some truth to that too.
There is. I think it's just that one slant pass where he dropped it. That was the biggest
Yeah.
criticism. Because like there was a picture, he had it in his hands,
Yeah.
and for him to drop it the way he did, I didn't understand that. But
Yeah.
it happens. Unfortunate that it happened because it was 23-16 when it happened. Had he caught that again, wide open, there was a defender that was being blocked already. He was gone.
Yeah. To me,
And
it looked like he was too focused on,
yeah,
taking off after
the
instead of,
aftermath.
yeah. Yeah.
And a lot of receivers do that, like you said.
Yeah.
It's the wrong approach because obviously you need to catch the ball first before you do anything else.
Yeah.
And he's done it before. Like he just thinks about the next step instead of what's right in front of him.
Yeah.
He's got to improve that.
And the coaches will be all over him with that in helping him, and they'll be in the film room, and they'll he's gonna get drilled about that, and
Oh yeah,
and he knows, and he's gonna put the work in to
yeah.
hopefully not do that again.
I hope so. I want him to succeed. I see fans saying cut him. I don't think that's going to help us if we cut him. We just don't have options right now to cut him. But having said that, I think by the end of the year, let's say we make the wild card, or we're going to make the wild card. But let's say in the wild card game, he makes those drops. Then the conversation should be, should he return next year? Because you have all that money in the offseason. You can add some wide receivers there. So Palmer, I don't think will return already. So it's really Ladd on that roster. And you're going to start from scratch, I'm guessing, for the receiver core. Because they're just
that's why we want to see DJ Chark so bad,
yeah,
see if he's got something,
yeah.
anything to give this team. I mean,
I appreciate Jalen Reagor's effort. It's just he's not game changing. We need a game changing type of receiver, and we need a speedy receiver. And we thought that that's what Johnston would be. Not a speedy receiver. I'm sorry, not a speedy receiver, because last speedy, a deep threat. And we thought that's what Johnston would be, but he's not, because it's just sometimes he's wide open, taking care of that, getting a touchdown. That's great. But the contested passes, how many of them is he catching, right? We need someone who can go up there and get it like Mike Williams. And we've seen Mike do it with Pittsburgh now. So it's like, man, we could have had this, but at the same time, the price was a little steep. So I get not getting him. Possibly in the draft, we can get a receiver in the second, third round, and then, sign a T. Higgins or a player like T. Higgins in the free agency, because that's all we're missing in the offense, I think. You bring back Dobbins and Edwards, and you'll be okay offensively. And, of course, the interior line.
The line, yeah. That I think that's what you got to clean up first.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. By the way, Trey Pipkins played right tackle before, right?
Right.
I think that was his position. So now he's right guard.
Yeah.
Look, he struggled as a right tackle. How do you expect him to do better as a right guard? That's why it's like Salyer, he already was in that right guard position. Why don't you just slide him in there and see what he can do? Because Pipkins is just awful.
Yeah.
Like Zion Johnson's not that great either, but at least he's a bit better than Pipkins. I don't know.
Yeah, and Zion still has his issues too.
Yeah.
And Bozeman too.
Oh, definitely. That I'm just hoping we replace him in the offseason, because center could be, easier, I guess, to replace than a right guard, left guard, because these guys are barely made available via trade. So you got to sign him or draft him. So hopefully we sign a center and then address the left guard, right guard situation during the draft. Even if it's later in the draft, that's fine. But just something, man, because they're just awful.
Yeah. Yeah, you wonder how much of like loyalty is tied up into these guys. They knew Bozeman from Baltimore. He's such a good
Yeah.
dude, off the field, and
Yeah. I think another thing is I was looking at the stats yesterday. They need to target Ladd more. He had 6 targets. Palmer had 8. I mean, come on. You got to get Ladd involved more. Keenan last year averaged 11 and a half targets, which is crazy. And it was in 13 games only played. And he had like north of 1,200 yards in those 13 games. I know it's a new coaching staff, but you're throwing the ball more now since the bye week. You got to throw it more to Ladd. Like 6 targets is nothing for a wide receiver 1, and he's our wide receiver 1. Like QJ had 5 targets, You got to get him more involved. 6 is way too low. And if you get him more involved, he's going to make the plays. So that's the reliable wide receiver that they have right now. You got to trust him, go to him. Even if it's 15 targets and he catches 9, that's still better than 8 targets catching 3. Because last week, Johnson had 8 targets, 2 catches. It just doesn't work.
The problem is teams are going to double him, knowing he's the only reliable receiver. Right. And Herbert naturally likes to spread it around, I think, because of that reason.
Yeah. I mean, last year, I think it worked well with Keenan. He was just getting open. 11 and a half targets is crazy, but it just worked. And if they can just catch a pass, maybe you can go to Ladd more. But yeah, they're going to double him for sure. It's just, luckily enough, he's quick. So he could possibly get past one of the coverages at least. But I would like to see him involved more. Obviously, I want to see Chark out there and Rice because they both have speed. So you talk about a deep threat, they can both contribute to that. Let's see him, man. What we have now is just not working.
Yeah. Riger had, one good game, I'd say. And he hasn't shown much. Go back, is it because he had that one good game? They're holding on. Is Chark just not still healthy after all that time? Like,
I think, or like Harbaugh said, he doesn't want the flow of this receiving core to diminish. Bringing in someone new. I get it, but you need a change somewhere.
Yeah, and at the time he said that, it was working. We were putting up points and we were winning, and so now
another thing could be is Chark being outplayed in practice, because we don't know what's going on behind closed doors, right? Like is Rager or Johnston or Palmer, are they outplaying Chark during practice?
Which would seem weird to me because, I would watch all those training camp videos and it looked like Chark was having a good camp.
Yeah.
He was making plays. So
it's funny because like the Joshua Palmer highlights, right, during the training camp, especially last year, like he's getting one-handed catches and these deep bombs he's catching. And we all thought, okay, this guy's going to make a jump last year. He played better last year, I think, than this year.
He did.
And it's unfortunate because he had a lot of potential. We took him over Amon-Ra St. Brown. We took Johnston over Jordan Addison and Zay Flowers. I mean, hindsight 2020, but you can't take that back. So you got to just work with what you have this season. And just, I think the 2 big things for the offense, protect Herbert and just catch the ball. Because there are a lot of drop passes that are near the end zone or can be turned into a 50-yard gain. And the first step is to catch that ball. So, and I understand like Herbert's arm is insane and it's very hard to throws, but that deep pass to Johnston, okay, that's understandable to drop. just that slant though, like he had the ball in his hand. Like I don't understand how he dropped it to
Yeah.
this moment. I don't understand how that.
Yeah, you have to wonder, was Monday Night Football part of it? Was it the stage is just so big and,
That's what I was thinking too.
you know,
Yeah, because last week again it was Sunday night. He
yeah,
dropped a similar pass,
yeah,
and it's like, okay, you're doing well against these lesser teams, right? Like the Browns, like the Saints, and the Cardinals. But then against better teams like the Ravens and the Bengals, not so much. So I don't know. I think he just needs to put this behind him. The fans will not let it go, but he needs to put this behind him. He needs to stop listening to the fans and needs to focus on just catching passes. And I'm sure the coaching staff's going to work with him all week because the Atlanta defense isn't the greatest, but they're decent. They have some playmakers on the defensive end, like the Ravens did, but they're not the greatest. Like you can exploit that matchup. So we need all hands on deck for that game. And if
yeah,
Perryman's out, next man up. Troy Dye, I think if he gets more reps as a starter, he'll improve.
yeah, yeah. It'd be nice to have Cam Hart too, because
Yeah, I think Cam will play. He cleared that concussion protocol with just a sprained ankle, they're saying, and he sustained that on Saturday. So a week off, I think he'll be fine. But Cam Hart back will be huge because they got Drake London, they have Ray McLeod, but I'm not sure about Darnell Mooney. He might be out because he had an Achilles injury. I haven't looked at the injury report, but he might not play, and if he doesn't, that's huge for the Chargers.
yeah, yeah, because he's a big weapon.
Yeah,
And they have so many. But they do have weaknesses too. So,
oh yeah, they have a
yeah,
lot of weaknesses, and we need to exploit that.
yeah. Kirk Cousins isn't the most mobile quarterback, especially after his injuries.
Yeah,
And yeah, and you can get to him. We didn't get much pressure this last game, but you got to get pressure on Kirk Cousins.
yeah. I mean, the thing is with the Ravens, they're just like their offensive line is so good.
Yeah,
And also Lamar Jackson just so good at creating space, getting away from the pressure. And it's like, dude, you're getting away from Bosa, Mac, Thule. That's not easy.
yeah,
And he's making it look so easy. So
yeah.
I think
Well,
we can definitely pressure Cousins.
yeah, yeah. Lamar and when they did get to Lamar, he'd either scramble or he'd do a little shovel pass or something.
He's crazy. It's like he's a magician out there.
Yeah,
And like right now, I think he's the MVP. I
yeah,
don't think anyone's touching that because he's leading the league in all these statistics, and that's an MVP. That's what the MVP entails. So I think he's the MVP this year, but Herbert's coming next year with the normal wide receiver core, I think. But yeah, hats off to him. You can't take that away from him. And Derrick Henry, that's why he's the best running back in the league. So
yeah.
they're just a complete team. And even without Roquan Smith, they still played well defensively.
Yeah, and they didn't let Herbert get off running either.
Yeah,
Herbert had been doing so good at scrambling on his own these last few games, and he tried to a few times. He just didn't find the running room because
right.
that defense was right there.
Yeah, that first touchdown that he did, the run, it was right in front of me, and I got it on tape. I was like, yes, this is a great start, and then this happens. Like, I don't know. It's a surprise to us every week that we kind of, not every week, right? But the losses that we've had, we go up and then they just take over second half, and that's that. So we got to clean up on that. Defensively, yes, we did not play well at all. And I think adjustments will be made. But like you said last week, we've struggled against mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah,
And that's a big problem. Because in the playoffs, you look at these quarterbacks: Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, C.J. Stroud, Bo Nix, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, right? Like all of these guys are mobile, so it's going to be tough. If you can't figure it out, it's going to be tough.
yeah, because we try to get pressure with these 4-man fronts, and I think that's where it leaves these quarterbacks open. You don't have anybody on these guys, and
Yeah,
uh, yeah, Jesse Minter's got to figure that out. He's gotten so much praise, and rightfully so, but
Yeah.
they've been struggling the last few games. The defense,
Yep.
this isn't the dominating defense that we saw earlier. And they play tough teams. We're going against the best offensive teams in the league, so yeah, you're going to give up some plays, but uh, it's still not where you want it to be. Especially come playoff time, there needs to be some changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so. You need it. I was looking at flights yesterday to Baltimore because I'm like, dude, these guys are gonna finish third, and if we finish sixth, we're playing them again. But I'm like, I'll be there. I don't know if we'll win, but I'll be there. Obviously, I hope we play Houston because that's just the easier opponent. Oh man, it will be great if we can play Houston because Steelers still have a tough schedule. Like they play the Eagles, Chiefs, Ravens, I think again, the Browns. So their schedule is not easy at all. And the Texans can keep winning, but they're not going to catch up to the Ravens. So if we're fifth, we play the Texans. That's all we need. I think that win will get us into Kansas City, and we go from there. But you just gotta outpace the Steelers right now if you're the Chargers. I know the Steelers are still third, but I don't think that's going to last too long.
Yeah, and talk about Kansas City barely beating the Panthers on Sunday.
Man.
This is the worst 10-1 team I've ever seen.
Yeah.
So many of these games coulda, shoulda, woulda slipped away.
Yeah. I think we can beat them week 14. I don't think anything's changed after that one loss. I mean, we're not going to win every single game. It's just again disappointing that we had opportunities to win but couldn't. But I think we beat the Chiefs. Truly, I do. They're just not a good team. I mean, it's crazy to say because they're 10-1, but it just doesn't look like they are last year's Chiefs at all. And the biggest thing for the Chargers against Kansas City would be stopping Travis Kelce. He hasn't had a great year, but every time he plays us, he just goes off. Yeah. So we got to stop him. Pacheco will be back. I guess I didn't predict that correctly. I think I said against the Raiders. So he's playing Friday, which should be an interesting game. It's a Friday game, kind of off schedule. You never know. Those games are a bit tricky. So chances of us winning the division now are slim, obviously, because, Chiefs are at 1 loss, we're at 4. But, hey, if they lose against the Raiders, then that's 2 games. The thing is, I'd rather they beat the Raiders, and here's why. If they beat them and we play them the following week, if they lose to the Raiders, they're going to go crazy against us, right? Like we were saying about the Ravens, because they lost that prior week. They're going to want to win. So I'd rather they beat the Raiders, get comfortable, so we take advantage of that.
I'd rather them lose 2 games in a row. I know what you're saying. I know it'd be a tougher test, but
ideally, I'd love that. Yeah. But it's just in Kansas City, especially both those games. I don't know. It's hard to imagine them losing both.
Yeah. I don't see them losing that Raiders game, but you never know. Division game, weird stuff happens, but
you never know. You never know. I think Aiden O'Connell is going to be the quarterback for them next game. He's pretty good. I mean, we said this last year too. He's got talent. It's just he hasn't had the chance to prove it. So let's see what he's got. I think that benefits some of the Raiders receivers compared to Gardner Minshew. But then if, Zamir White and Alexander Madison are out, how much, how many carries can you give Amir Abdullah? So it'll be interesting to watch. I don't think Raiders will win, but you never know. Crazier things have happened. So we'll take it game by game. It just sucks that, the Ravens were 6th at the time and not 3rd, because now we slipped to 6th. If the playoffs started today, we play the Steelers. Again, I don't think that's going to stay the same. I think that'll change a lot by the time we hit week 18. We just have to take care of business in front of us. Like, if we can lose one more game for the rest of the season, we'll be in good shape. I think that puts us at 12-5. 12-5.
Yeah, 12-5.
12-5.
Yeah, it's doable, and
It's very doable.
and Junior Colston's eligible to come off IR against Kansas City, which would be huge if he can be ready right away. Especially if Denzel's still out. You get him and Cam back. You get Mac and Bosa healthier. I know they played. I know Bosa's been playing more, but we need them at full strength.
Yeah. And it was interesting. Khalil, I don't know if you heard him after the game. He goes, he wants to play the Ravens again in the playoffs. I was like, dude, hold on, man. Like, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Let's just get one win in the wild card before we get the Ravens.
Well, hey, he's a competitor. You love to
definitely.
He hates to lose, and he wants another crack at him. You love to see that.
I love it. I love it. It's just I want to first get the wild card win, and then let's get the Ravens. And it'll be a good storyline. Like Harbaugh, Jim hasn't beaten John yet, so to get that first win in the playoffs, that's great. So I'm all for it. I'd rather play the Ravens than the Bills still. And you never know. Ravens might take the Bills out. I think they can. Because they're just a really good offense. And the first half, like I noticed the time management for the Chargers was very good. After that first half, I think it was 14-13 after that first half. Second half started, and Ravens took off, I think it was 7 minutes off the clock. And that's when I was like, shoot, this is not good. Yeah. Because now they figured it out, and they're taking the time off the clock. So every attention to detail matters in this game. But Junior Colson, it's interesting. I was reading up on a story the other day. Not many people know this. He was born in Haiti and was, I believe, adopted from an orphanage in Haiti, brought to the States, to Tennessee, grew up here, played football. I think they came when he was 9 years old to the States, played football, and then went to Michigan, got drafted. So it's just a great story, Colson, and I want him to be healthy. I want him to go out there because he can make plays happen. He's a big-time linebacker. And I know a lot of people are saying it was a mistake drafting him now because, he's been hurt, and we should have drafted this guy who's on the Steelers. I'm like, dude, just give him a chance. I think he's also younger than the Steelers linebacker that they're talking about. Just give him a chance. He's going to be an upgrade at linebacker for us. And in cases like this where Perryman does not play, you have a guy you can rely on alongside Henley. So give him a chance. He's going to be fine once he's back. And I don't have concerns about his play because if you haven't watched him in Michigan, you'd have concerns because you don't know what you're talking about. But if you watch him in Michigan, this guy is a real player. And I'm looking forward to him coming back. I think it's week 15, his return against the Buccaneers. Let's see. Let's see what he can do. Yeah,
he was the leader of the defense of that Michigan team. He's he can be that that whatever the green dot or whatever it is.
The X factor.
Yeah,
I think so. And we're gonna add possibly another Michigander. I think it was Loveland, the tight end. We'll talk about that, as the draft approaches. But a lot of good stuff happening for us still. Like again, we're a very young team still. Gonna add even more young talent in the draft. Have $70 million in cap space. A lot of stuff to look forward to as a Chargers fan. One loss isn't gonna kill it,
Yeah, this season's not over yet.
No.
I know how everyone feels after this. And especially if you've been a longtime Chargers fan, it's these traumatic losses, that come flooding back. But let's play out the rest of the season. There's still a lot.
Look, small gains. Make the playoffs. That's number one. Win the wild card. You do that, you've already exceeded expectations. You just make the playoffs, you've exceeded expectations because this was a rebuild year, right? So get in the playoffs, win the wild card, already exceeded expectations, and let's see what happens in the divisional. Truly, I think we can beat the Chiefs. And if we can beat them and make it to the conference championship and then lose, I won't be upset at all. of course, we want to win.
Yeah.
But if we can go that far this year, imagine what we can do next year.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with it. I think we can make a run this year in the playoffs. We just need all hands on deck. Defensively, we'll be healthy by then, hopefully, and then offensively, just let's just take care of this receiver room. Let's hope that J.K. Dobbins is healthy. We don't know the prognosis yet. I think it sounds like an LCL sprain, and if it is, again, 3 to 4 weeks. So hopefully it's just that and nothing more. But after all that he's gone through already, man, I held my breath when I saw that he's questionable to return. I was like, dude, there's no way against his former team he's going to be ruled out, and of course, ruled out.
Yeah, and he was having a really good game.
Yeah.
40 yards.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A couple of catches too. I think three receptions, 19 yards. He had his longest reception. That 11-yard reception was his longest of the year. And now it begs the question if he's out, which I think he will be out a couple weeks. The injury didn't look great, but it didn't look that bad, right? Like it was a sprain, so he'll be out a couple weeks. I think we'll see Kimani Vidal.
So.
More in the passing game than the running game, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Gus had 9 carries, 11 yards. Yeah. Again, he was doing well the first couple of games back from injury. Got the first touchdown of the season for him, I think, against his former team. That's great. But it's good that we can count on him to get the touchdowns at the goal line because we're going to need it with Dobbins out. But in terms of just receiving wise, I expect to see Vidal out there. Hassan Haskins is out there just not doing anything, right? Like he's a good blocker, I guess. I think that's why he's out there. He's a good blocker. But just receiving wise, running wise, he's not that great. Like he's a better special teams player. So I think Vidal being out there already has somewhat of a chemistry with Herbert. They can build that. And he'll be more in the passing game, I believe.
I'd love to see Vidal get more carries though, too, because we didn't really see that.
I hope so. Yeah.
Because we did see him in the passing game. He got a long, passing touchdown from Herbert. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, because we were excited too about what Vidal could do on the ground, and he just hasn't been given that many opportunities yet.
Right, and it's weird because in college he didn't really get passing opportunities. It was all running.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, okay, because he had a couple of receptions when he was playing that touchdown, of course, against the Broncos, against the Cardinals. He had a couple of receptions. So let's see what he can do. We're going to need it because as a fallback option for Herbert, you got to dump off to someone. And we can always go to Disley, but it'll be easier for a running back to get involved. And please, let's see Chark. Let's see Rice. Both of them are deep threats. We need that. And we thought Rager would be it. We're not really using Rager as a deep threat. So we need something here. Because, again, I just don't have faith in Joshua Palmer. And Johnston, he's just such a hard worker. I want to see him succeed. And I hope he does. I get the criticisms from yesterday. 100% warranted. But let's just hope that he bounces back. That's the important thing. That loss is past us now. Let's hope he bounces back. And again, if he doesn't, in the playoffs, if he has a game like this, then I don't know if he'll be back with us next year.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to come to that. I mean, because he knows his career is on the line. I'm sure he'll get a chance with another team if
I think he will.
But
I think
he's still on a rookie deal too.
Right.
Like, to find receivers, at that price, you can't do it.
That's why to say to cut him, I was like, what are you guys talking about? Cut him. It makes no sense for us to cut him. I know he didn't contribute at all yesterday, but still, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and he's got 5 touchdowns. He's like one of the top receiving leaders in touchdown receptions.
I think the problem is also he's wide receiver 2 right now for us. He's not a wide receiver 2. I think that's another issue. Like he could be wide receiver 3, possibly wide receiver 4. Like if we added wide receiver 2, a legitimate one. and have him as a wide receiver 3, that works out. Like if we had Keenan and Mike, for example, and then him at wide receiver 3, that makes sense. But for him to be wide receiver 2, because again, this is what happens. Like in these crucial possessions, because now it's like, okay, Herbert still has faith in him, right? He's going to trust him. He's going to go to him. But if he keeps dropping these passes, which we hope he doesn't, how much longer is Herbert going to be able to trust him? And we've seen in fourth quarter, final possessions, Herbert's going to lag, like we saw against the Bengals. That's his go-to. Not so much to Palmer and Johnston. So let's see how that plays out too. But I think you got to put Chark and Rice out there. You got to give them an opportunity because, you have nothing to lose right now.
Yeah. I really wish we would have moved Palmer at the deadline. I know we were trying to. Maybe nobody wanted him, but
value's
keep him around, because it's this weird place where Herbert trusts him and he's had big games in the past, but he's not producing like we need him to, and like this game against the Ravens, it hurt us. He's had big catches in other games. He'll come up with a big catch or two, but it's not that consistency that we need from him. And the team's already said he's not in the future plans, Right. So
I think what it is. The scrutiny for Johnston is that he was a first-round pick, and Palmer wasn't. And I think that's the scrutiny. That's why he's getting more scrutiny than Palmer. I think with this new, front office, we would have made different picks, but it is what it is now. It kind of sucks that we lost on Amon-Ra and Zay Flowers, but it is what it is. I mean, the thing with Palmer, like, it's a perfect example. Palmer had 8 targets yesterday, 3 catches. Johnston had 8 targets the game before, 2 catches. You can't have a wide receiver 2 with either of those ratios. And it's like we don't even know who our wide receiver 2 is because they're just both not playing great. And yes, Johnston, to his credit, is getting the touchdowns. I believe 2 or 3 of those were deep bombs wide open. Great job for getting open. But then in these contested possessions, he's not being able to catch those. So hopefully he's able to going forward. I know the coaching staff's going to work on that with him. I wish him success. It's just we got to see something.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I think he'll bounce back.
I hope so. I hope so. He seems like a good guy. Puts in the work, and I hope so. But I think as a wide receiver 3, he'll be more effective for us than as a wide receiver 2.
Yeah. And why don't we watch the video of what Herbert had to say?
Yeah.
Say anything to him? You have a conversation with him as far as lifting him up after him?
Yeah, I think that's the tough part about the NFL. He's a playmaker. He's done an incredible job all year, and you never want to see that. And just like when I throw an interception or when I miss a throw, he's going to come up to me and tell me, "Hey, it's next play," and that's the way it is. And everyone in that locker room is professionals, and Q will do a great job. I can give him better placement, better balls, and it's on all of us. It's not just on him; it's on me for the way I got to deliver him the ball. I got to make sure that we're all on the same page. But he's an incredible player, and we're going to keep throwing the ball.
Just the way that he's improved from year 1 to year 2, how much confidence does that give you that he's going to be able to bounce back from another moment like this?
He's a fighter. You trust him. I'm going to keep throwing the ball. That's what we did out there, and it unfortunately didn't go our way tonight. But I know he's going to be the first one in the building. He's going to do everything the right way, and he's a truly great teammate, great guy, and he's going to go make some plays. He's a lot of good football left in front of him.
That's a leader right there.
Yeah.
That's a leader, unlike Aaron Rodgers, who throws guys like Mike Williams under the bus. He has confidence in Q. And
I think that's very important because, again, his confidence is already diminished for Johnston because of all the fans, and sometimes deservedly so, sometimes it's just too much. Like he's still human.
Yeah, and I thought during his rookie year it was ridiculous, man. 'Cause the guy's a rookie; he's still learning.
Yeah,
If you don't know the history of the NFL, so many rookies have struggled and then come back and and done something with their career. So
yeah.
to dismiss him and say he's a bum already after his rookie
Right.
year,
Like someone I think commented under one of my tweets about him like stacking up cereal boxes at Walmart, and he goes, "Make sure you don't drop the cereal box." I'm like, okay, dude, that's a little too much.
Yeah. The worst is I've heard our own fans, like in my own section, yelling out like, you know, calling QJ a bum and you got the worst hands and all this stuff. Like, who's that helping? You're supposed to
Yeah.
be a fan of our team. Huh? You're just
Yeah.
you're piling on our own player and like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, criticism is one thing, but then going too far is another, and a lot of them go too far.
Yeah.
Like criticize his game, that.
Yeah.
And when he
Nobody
does
wanted
well,
to see him drop that.
yeah, and when he does well, though, acknowledge it. Like people
Yeah.
don't even acknowledge that he does well sometimes. So you can have your cake and eat it too. When he does well, you gotta, heap praise for him, but at the same time, don't go overboard and don't go overboard criticizing him. Like I said, like I have criticism for him. Bad drop, horrible drop, shifted the game. And I'm not going to say he's the reason we lost, but yeah, a big part of it was that drop. But then again, the Ravens offense was nearly flawless and our defense could have done better, didn't. And also Joshua Palmer had a role in us losing too. But it happens. You got to bounce back. So I think that's the important thing now for him to bounce back against the Falcons. And next primetime game we got is against the Chiefs. You gotta step up there because the big crowd's gonna be watching. Millions of people obviously tuning in nationally. Hostile territory for him too. That's a huge game for him. But again, I think as a wide receiver 3, he'd be more effective. So next year, let's make that adjustment. But this year, you got to work with what you have. And like we've been saying, man, let's see DJ Chark.
Yeah. Q, you just got to get him in spaces where he can succeed. Those little slants, but like he should have caught. But everyone knows the contested catches. Going up for jump balls. That's not his game.
No.
You got to get him open. You got to get him in space. You got to show off that speed that he's got because he is one of the fastest players there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was like, they were calling him Mini Mike Williams when we got him at first. And I just didn't see it. His body was also slimmer than Mike's. He's just not big enough to go up for those contested jump balls like Mike Will did. There aren't many receivers like Mike Williams. I think people don't understand that. Like T. Higgins could be one of them. But again, there aren't many T. Higgins either. So there's a very limited amount of players like that. But just to imagine like Higgins with Johnston and Ladd, that's huge. And then you add another veteran receiver. I'm saying Keenan Allen, but I don't know anyone as a backup. Or if it's Keenan, obviously he's not going to be a backup. He's going to be a rotation starter. But something alongside Higgins and Johnston, I think will do fine.
Yeah, you just have to wonder if the front office is going to want to spend the kind of money it's going to take to bring a T. Higgins in here.
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd like to have it. Will they spend $30 million a year? Who knows?
The thing is, like, there's that meme where they show Joe all protecting Herbert, and then Herbert throwing to Johnston, and Johnston just bounces off his head. And there's the meme where neighbors are just standing there, and Herbert's getting sacked. So it's like that's where you are right now. And I still like the Alt pick. I think that was a correct pick because again, if we didn't get Alt, we wouldn't have gotten Ladd. So I think that was a correct pick. Also, Neighbors, I don't know if you saw that post game interview. He literally threw his team under the bus.
Yeah.
We don't want that toxicity in our locker room. And it wouldn't have happened if Harbaugh was there. I'll guarantee you that. But
he's one of these diva wide receivers who needs the ball, and he's going to explode if he doesn't get it.
Right.
You know.
Right. So I definitely don't want that. We just need a reliable wide receiver. Doesn't have to be T. Higgins. Someone cheaper if possible. Just a reliable one alongside Ladd. And, of course, a brand new interior O-line. Every single one of those guys. Zion Johnson out. Trey Pipkins out. Bozeman out. And just let's rebuild that interior O-line.
That's the toughest thing because, getting those guys, you hope you get maybe one guy in the draft that can replace one of them,
Yeah. Even like Salyer at right guard.
Yeah.
Let's just try that. And then center and left guard, let's switch out. Center, I think we can get in free agency. Left guard, we can draft and go from there. Because right now, it can't get any worse than what we have right now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not having Slater in all, we saw what that was like,
Yeah. No, I meant like the interior, not the full line.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Slater was the highest graded player yesterday for us. So he's been good. Alt's been good. It's just, it's these like attention to detail pieces, defensively and offensively, where we got to improve on. Not much we can do now. Obviously, trade deadline has passed, but definitely address in the offseason. And we'll speak about this during the offseason too. We'll see who's available at the time and the draft and all that. So,
yeah, I have confidence in Joe Ortiz and Harbaugh on this staff because they didn't really have the opportunity to shape this team the way they wanted to. They were the cap space the way that it was. They didn't have the space, and they're going to have $70 million in cap next year. So it's going to be the team they want next year.
Yeah. I just hope that you get a second reliable wide receiver because we've seen them kind of be conservative when it comes to wide receivers. We just need just one more. That's it. And I think priority definitely is the O-line, but you also need that wide receiver. So doesn't have to be Higgins. It's just he's the big, receiver available. He could go to Patriots. Doesn't matter. We just need something reliable. And if Keenan is, willing to come back on a vet minimum, do we take him is the question.
I don't know if I see it because Ladd and Keenan, they're both the slot. They're both the reliable guys, and you got Ladd who's pretty much a faster Keenan.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like in the beginning too, like he reminds me of Keenan, except a much faster version of him.
Yeah, so, and Keenan's put on some weight. I heard the Chicago beat reporters, complaining about that in training camp, and he hasn't been the same player. He had a good game this last game, but
he's had like 2 good games this whole season so far. So no, he's not the same at all. Obviously, having a worse QB isn't helping him. And we spoke about this earlier in the season where he made those comments about how we'd rather have Caleb Williams. I mean, obviously he's going to say that. What else do you want him to say? But deep down, he knows he screwed up, not taking that pay cut. But that's just, just appreciation for Bosa to take that pay cut, Mac to restructure his contract. It shows that these guys, this is home for them.
Yeah.
And with Keenan, we didn't see that. Surprisingly, he spent his whole career with the Chargers. That's why it's like, I don't know if we'll take him back, but if we can get him on a vet min, maybe.
I don't see him doing that either. He's trying to take care of his family, and you can't fault him for that.
Definitely not. I mean, look, this is a business too, and people forget the business aspect of the sport, of any sport. But he did get his money this year, so you never know. You never know. Like, how many more years does he have left? Like who's going to offer him the same amount that he got this year? So there's that too. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the free agency. But we got to just, I haven't lost faith in this team. Bad loss, it happens. And I'm glad it happened now, not in the playoffs, because now we can learn from it, build on it. You just got to take care of business Sunday now against the Falcons.
Yeah, on to Atlanta. And remember to subscribe and smash that like button. And go over to Underdog Fantasy. Use promo code BOLT. They'll match up to $1,000. And we'll see you guys next time.
All right. See you Friday.
See you.